Hello, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com and welcome to Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Today is December 15th, 2020. I see the YouTube has already warned people that I'm live. Hopefully LinkedIn has as well. And let's get all the windows open so that I can interact with everybody. Remember, if you'd like to ask questions, you can ask them in the LinkedIn chat, the YouTube chat, and also the anonymous URL, deltacx.link/AMA. And I'm going to jump right in today because I got 4 questions ahead of time. This link is good all week round. So if you'd like to be one of the first questions answered on Tuesdays, send it ahead of time. If I have spinach in my teeth, will you tell me? Hi, Charlene. Good to see you. So I'm going to jump right in after I get my systems working here. Let's see, press the buttons. So we'll jump right in with some early questions, but of course I'll be here for an hour and taking any questions you have. And of course this will also be archived on YouTube, as these always are. You can find it on the Delta CX YouTube channel and then check the playlist that says Office Hours and you will find this there. Okay, I think I've got my windows open and ready for action. Let's see. Let's check special effects and things. Let's see. Confetti? Yes, okay. My panel is working. All right, let's take a look at some of the questions that have already come in. Here's the first one that I got, and it says, recently, I was asked to participate in a relative's UX research for them to test out a UI design. Is it common to force testers to download an app to their personal phone that tracks their screen, touches, records video and audio? I didn't read that very well. Tracks their screen touches, records video and audio. I was told of this right before the test started, and I don't feel comfortable downloading an app I don't know and how my data will be captured. And in terms of data security, shouldn't there be some strong advance notice and more elaborate explanation to mitigate such concerns for users? This was a super question, and I think this is the kind of thing very often a survey should prepare people for, and you would hope that a consent form might also give additional information about that or give people options if they can't or don't want to download the app. But where you have to download an app, I think it's absolutely important to let people know that this is how the app is going to work. It's important for it to know what it's going to grab off their phone, that it's going to track touches, record the screen. I don't think these things are bad or wrong in a vacuum. I know very often that's the way we are testing and doing some evaluative research on mobile devices. But we definitely don't want our participants to be surprised by things that we are doing or collecting. That's going to hurt trust, and that's always bad for CX and UX if we're hurting trust. Hello, Tango. Good to see you. So I would say, this person's experience is probably more common than we'd like to admit. So let's please upgrade the communication that we're doing with our test participants and study participants to make sure they understand that if they are visiting a site, downloading an app, or even coming to our offices, if they will be recorded and how that will be used and who might see it. I think it's important to be honest and upfront about that. And, do it. This should not have been a last-minute surprise to the person who asked the question. I promise this week I will do my best to keep a better eye on email to see when the anonymous questions come in. Okay, so let's take a look at the next question that came in ahead of time. And then, of course, you can start asking questions. So when I catch up, I can jump to yours. The next question says, I think this was from a YouTube comment I got on another video, and I said, this is a great question. Let me answer it Tuesday. So hopefully our YouTube commenter is here. Nearly every course, even if they are halfway decent, suggests that newbies who have yet to encounter real UX work design an app. But as you pointed out in the video she was watching, It's not valid, and it just feels false and unrealistic as well as unfocused. What are some suggestions you might have of more realistic UX work scenarios on which we could use to focus our projects and case studies until we can find legitimate work? Even though it won't be authentic, perhaps it could at least feel more like a scrubbed NDA project rather than the generic bootcamp apps, and offer more opportunities to showcase critical thinking. Okay, so super question, and probably one that many of you have. So again, and I've also seen tweets from companies who are like, "Dear UX and UI people, please stop redesigning our app. You don't have internal information. You probably didn't do a bucket of research. Stop redesigning the app." So what can people do instead? Now, that's going to vary across hiring managers. Some hiring managers demand a certain amount of previous work experience, so they're going to expect to see real work experience. They're not going to expect to see bootcamp projects or college or university projects or sample projects. If they are expecting a certain amount of real work experience and you don't have that yet, you can't fake it. You can't pretend that your passion project or your sample project really was real work. Now, you can do a sample project in a highly realistic way as solo projects go. I mean, you're not coordinating and collaborating with a product manager. But I think it's good for people to do a sample project with a mentor or coach. See podcast episode 59 for mentors and coaches, how to pick them and find them. And that way, if you are doing non-real work, or if you're doing real work, a lot of people try to find pro bono work or things like that. If you have real work, fake work, do it with a mentor or coach who can give you that guidance and that tough love to help it become a better project and to have it be as realistic as it can be, given that it's a solo sample project. So I think that that's the best way to go. And even when I see portfolios, if the project is fake, but it was done in as realistic a way as possible, you didn't just interview 2 people, you interviewed 8 or 10 people. You didn't just make one persona, or, you have a set that makes sense. Even when I see this, I would definitely give that person credit because it gives me insight into what they might do if I hired them. Okay, they might be unfamiliar with how some aspects of collaboration will work because they don't have that real work experience. But if my job is open to people who are still relatively new and don't have real work experience, then I have to accept a sample project as proof of what you are capable of. If my job requires real work experience, oh well, then that's the end of that. No sample project will probably substitute for real work experience. So I don't have a fantastic answer there. It's the same old crappy, you need real experience to get a real job, and nobody's fixed that or figured it out yet. And I'm hoping in a couple of months I'll release my apprenticeship model, and hopefully companies will wake up and try that, or their own. I do see questions coming in anonymously, but I have 2 more questions we got ahead of time, so I'm going to answer those first, and of course keep your questions coming. Next question I got ahead of time says, "Hi Debbie, how normal are design tests these days? What are signs it's a test worth my time? And when should I run for the hills? Sometimes I can't help but feel like something's off, even when the test looks like a reasonably sized challenge, and there's always that voice in my head telling me my portfolio should be enough. To add some context, I have 3 years of experience looking for something new to grow. I work full time, so I already auto-decline the unreasonable week-long challenges." Super question. And I know I've got a couple of videos on this. Not only do we have the podcast, not 47, might have been 47, something like that. I've got to open up my own archives and see what numbers these are. But I know we've got an old one where we had Joel Barr talking about challenges, 49. So again, if you go to Or I think you can just probably search YouTube Delta CX Challenge. There's both a full podcast episode 49, which will be in the live podcasts playlist, and there's a 4.5-minute perspectives video, which will be in the perspectives playlist. If you're not familiar with perspectives, those videos are almost all 5 minutes and under and answer one question. So there's a perspectives video called Should I Do a UX Design Job Interview Design Challenge? I put all the keywords in. And so basically, in general, my answer is probably no, but I think you have to find out a little bit more. One thing I think we have to learn is who is going to review this challenge? Because as this person asking the question is pointing out, if they can't look at this person's portfolio or interview them and figure out what they're capable of, what are they going to learn from the design challenge? Who's assessing or reviewing the design challenge? Is it going to be the same people who couldn't figure out what this person could do from their portfolio? That sounds like a loser, not our person who asked the question, but the company or the job. Too many questions get raised, and that's even without going into, is this real work the company is trying to get for free from job candidates? So I too think that something is off. I think that we don't need to give people homework. If they have a good-looking portfolio and then they can speak to it intelligently in an interview and they can fill in some of the blanks, which would help us know it's not a stolen portfolio, that to me is good enough. So I'm definitely very wary of design challenges. I typically turn them down as well. I think if you still have a very light portfolio, you could try to do a design challenge and put it in the portfolio, but ultimately I'm not even sure it's a good portfolio piece, because ultimately a design challenge is you guessing at something for X hours. And that's not a reflection of the real work you're going to do when I hire you. When I hire you, I am never going to ask you to figure something out and completely design it in 3 hours, 8 hours, 2 days. That's certainly not the way I work. And if that's the way this company works, you don't want to work there. So I think it's good to ask more questions in the interview process. Who is going to be assessing this? What are they looking for? And is this how your company approaches design? If I work there, will I tend to have 3 hours, 6 hours a day to come up with the answer? Charlene says, what is the best way to turn down the design challenge? I think the honesty. I think the best way to put it would probably be, I'm very interested in your job and very excited about it, but there's a trend in UX and CX away from design challenges because they're not representative of real work. In real UX jobs, we don't work on something for 3 hours and then have it assessed. And since this is an unrealistic look at my work, it's something that I'm not going to devote time to, and I'm going to move forward with the companies interviewing me who are able to assess my skills and portfolio by reviewing the portfolio and interviewing me. That's a little bit long. I'm not sure I'd say all that, but I would probably go in some sort of direction that basically makes it sound like they're outdated. They are just, that's out of style. Abinab, I see your question, but you are going to have to be last on the list because we got a bunch of questions ahead of time and in the anonymous today. So Charlene, I can't really say the best way to turn down a design challenge. I think in general, it's good to be gracious and grateful. Thank you for having interviewed me for the job. I've been so excited about the job and moving to the next step. However, there's a lot of controversy in UX about design challenges because they're not really representative of the real work that I can do. And I'm concerned that this would be an exercise that doesn't make sense because you should be able to tell what I can do for my portfolio. I don't have you got to work on that. That's not the best way to say that, but that's kind of in the neighborhood I'm in right now. It needs help. That wasn't very good. But again, I would try to go with gracious with a tiny poke that this shouldn't be necessary. Okay, let's just grab a couple of the questions. We've got 3 questions from that are coming in anonymously, and then Abby's questions. So that is the queue so far. I know you all can't see the queue, but since these are anonymous, they come into my email, and so you're not seeing them in the YouTube or the LinkedIn chat. But there we go. So next question came in anonymously previously. How to deal with a designer colleague who wants to have control over my work. We have the same level of expertise and the company gave us equal responsibilities, but she behaves like she is my boss. Okay, so that's a tough work experience, and that is definitely not a low ego action hero. A low ego action hero would not do that to a coworker, and that is not collaboration, to act like someone else's boss when you are not. So it sounds like we may need to bring in your manager. Especially if you have the same manager, but even if you don't, I would go to my manager and say, look, you asked me to do this and you asked her to do this. That's a fair division of work. It's a great plan, but I'm having a problem in that coworker so-and-so is behaving like my boss. She's acting like she has to control my work, review my work, blah, blah, blah. We are equals. We are peers. I'm not trying to control or review her work. Is there possibly something you can gently say to her privately that could improve this situation? Because I tried to say something to her and it didn't really fly. And I think that's a key here. Try to say something to her first. I never like when people go straight to my manager before talking to me, because maybe I'm doing something I didn't notice and I can fix or change it. So I think I would probably start with this person, and if she does something controlling or like she's overseeing you, I might say, my work on this project is this and yours is this, and I haven't been controlling or overseeing your work, but I feel like you're doing that to me, and I think we need to take a closer look at what our division of labor is here, what we're each responsible to do. And if you feel that you need to control and oversee my work, then perhaps I should also control and oversee your work, and then it'll certainly be equal. I don't know if I'd say it quite that way, but I would try to say something to this person that is hopefully de-escalating and not inflammatory, which means I would think about it for a long time before doing it. And if they still did it after that, I would certainly involve the manager. Or if they still did it, I would say, look, I don't want to have to go to our manager so that she can tell you to stop doing this. Can you please stop doing this? This is not, this is just not appropriate. You're not my lead. You're not my boss. I'm trying to work this out between us. Hopefully that helps. Next question. What is your thought when it comes to lean inception for a design process? My company currently runs on agile methodology with 3-week sprints. They wanted my opinion about moving into lean inceptions. I'm going to have to Google that. Lean inception sounds violent. Okay, there's a book, Lean Inception, because of course there is. There's a book that says everything. Lean inception. Can someone tell me what lean inception is? Because I'm Googling it and I can't tell. That's bad. Lean inception is shorter, removing everything that's not about the product, making it lean. I already don't believe it. The end result of an inception is understanding the MVP. We should not be doing MVPs. So in general, MVPs are the wrong way to go for our companies. I can't even find what lean inception is. Does anybody have I don't know if you can paste a URL in. Lean inception, iteratively delivering an MVP. Lean inception. Here's another blog post. Lean inception. I literally cannot find what this is. I can't find what this is, but I'm going to go with MVPs are not the way to go. MVPs were designed for startups who don't have product and UX and CX teams. And so they all have to get together and stab at What's the MVP going to be? The MVP should be inside the CX and UX process so that we can use our testing adventures to determine if we're going in the right direction. Once a company has to have engineering build it, merge it, release it to be able to determine if we're going in the right direction, you're already not lean. There is absolutely nothing lean about having the engineering team build a concept that we're not sure is the right direction to go in. Not lean at all. So I think a lot of lean startup and MVP has been great sound bites, but if you really play it out, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, Nawaz, that's the same link I was on, and I'm not getting it. Let's see. Oh no, I was on a different link. An inception is an activity done at the start of a project to gather together the people involved and set a common direction and working style for the ongoing work. The lean inception is a focused form of inception, which can be done in a single week. During this time, we understand the key features and customers for the product and build a canvas to formulate the characteristics of a minimum viable product. This sounds like complete garbage. This just sounds like a variation of a design sprint, because originally a design sprint was meant to be a way that companies that had no product people and no UX and CX people would be able to figure out the direction for a minimum viable product. So what's the difference between a design sprint and a lean inception? But I'm going to go with they are both still garbage, and especially if I am having trouble Googling these and getting a straight answer on what they are. I am unable to figure out what this is. Has anybody else figured out what this is? Can anybody write in 200 characters or less, because that's what you get on YouTube, what is a lean inception? So I would have to say that if I cannot find a clear definition of this, this must be garbage, this must be lingo, and this is probably something where they can't wait to charge you money to get trained on it. So looking at the original question, what's your thought when it comes to a lean inception for a design process? Absolutely not. Because if you look at me and Darren and Dr. Nick and Larry Marine and many of the people we've had on the show who I respect very much, outside of myself, we're not doing this. We aren't doing this. And in many cases, we're not doing anything like this. A design process is user-centered design. User-centered design doesn't need a lean inception. And I would challenge the people who are into lean inceptions, lean startup, design sprints, and all these pseudo-lean things. I would challenge them. What is your definition of lean? Because I find that a lot of this stuff does not match the definition of lean. Guessing at what customers might want and trying to figure out much later down the line after it's all been UX designed and engineered and released. That doesn't sound lean. Lean is all about cutting waste, reducing defects, and increasing customer value as the customer defines quality and value, not like I define it or the engineering lead defines it. There's nothing lean about building all this stuff and then finding out that wasn't quite the right way to go. When we have a user-centered design process, or if you're into Double Diamond, which is a derivative of user-centered design as far as I can tell, we have these serious, thorough processes that will tell us before engineering writes a line of code if our concepts are going in the right direction. That's what concept and usability testing is all about. That's what evaluative research is all about. So lean inception sounds like garbage. It sounds like it's another one of those buzzwords that comes with books and training, and it's not something we do. So I think that UX can be part of Agile. I think we can eventually work what we do into 3-week sprints if we have to, but we still need a whole bunch of time before engineers start so we can do proper qualitative research, come up with some concepts, test them early on potential or current users using our realistic prototypes, and then give it to engineering. So I don't get this lean inception thing. It just sounds like another variation on a design sprint. Feel free to ask a follow-up question that would help me understand this. And of course, feel free to show this to your manager or anybody else. But I would have to say it does not sound lean or agile. I mean, just because you call something a 3-week sprint doesn't make it agile. There's still plenty of things that are freaking disasters and poorly planned and have no customer value that could still happen during a sprint. Don't congratulate yourselves just because you're calling a time block a sprint. Feel free to show this at anybody at your company, and I would be happy to speak to them live and in person, no charge, if they would like to clear this up. But this is not how CX or UX is done. We have our processes, and there shouldn't be somebody doing pseudo-agile or fake lean trying to change or diminish our processes. Anyone who has studied lean or Lean Six Sigma knows that lean is not doing the least we can to scrape by and move to the next thing. That is not customer centric. That's not quality focused. That is speed over quality, and it bites us in the ass every time. I hope that helps. Thanks for asking. What else? Let's see. Okay, we've got some more questions here. Let's take a look. Next question. Is it necessary to know programming languages like React, JavaScript, HTML, CSS when applying for a senior UX design role? Super question. My answer to that is only if you would like to apply for a job that demands that you also be an engineer. Coding is an engineering job. I believe strongly that engineering jobs should not be combined with CX and UX jobs in either direction. We shouldn't ask the engineering team to do UX work, and we shouldn't ask the UX team to do engineering work. This is typically a job that's being combined because a company is trying to go cheap. They figure we'll get one person, they'll do UX and research and information architecture and interaction design and prototyping and visual design and design systems, and oh yeah, ask them to also do front-end dev. Do you want that job? I don't. I can write code, but I refuse to write code, and that I don't think that's kept me out of jobs. I also don't do visual design. I am really just strict CX, UX without the artistic or aesthetic side of it, other than I've done some art direction. So I believe, thank you, Shannon, for the claps. Good to have seen you last night, or as night my time. I think that if you want to be a coder, please become a coder. I will not stand in your way. But I don't believe that a senior if the job says senior UX designer or senior UX researcher or even senior UX UI, which y'all know I don't believe in, that should not include front-end dev. We are asking you to do too many jobs. You are likely to burn out. You are likely to be overworked, and you are likely to be confused and conflicted when you are given the time of one human and asked to do 3 jobs. Something's going to lose. And usually it's the UX, because somebody's going to want those pretty screens to be created and hurry up and code them. Now you're like, oh crap, I don't have time for research, good information architecture. I'll just sketch the best thing I can. Now we're not doing our best work. We are not going to make customers happy. And what the hell is going to be in your portfolio? Shannon says, and I like sleeping. Unless they pay for 5 positions worth of work, walk away. I agree. Everybody knows I'm working right now on a very serious training program for HR recruiters and hiring managers, and you can be sure I am telling them every way possible, stop combining all of these jobs. And I'm going to have many examples. So thanks to the person who asked the question and Shannon for the follow-ups, and let's keep going. And we still have, Abby, you're still a couple questions away. And let's check if I missed an email. No. Okay, so feel free to keep asking questions. We've got more coming. And this is Office Hours, Ask Me Anything. And if you enjoy being here, won't you please subscribe on YouTube and click the bell so you know I'm live? And of course, empathize with the like button. It's so important to be full of empathy. Please empathize with the like button. Let the YouTube algorithm know that you like this stuff and you kind of like me. Hey, Nicholas, good to see you here. Steele, you are here. Good to see you. And I forgot your real name, but Steele's here. And Steele, you will be next on the list after a few more questions. And I see another one coming in anonymously now. So I promise everybody I'm juggling as best as I can. Okay, the next question says, what are fast-paced approaches for usability testing? What are other ways to generate an early feedback other than presenting working software with high-fidelity UI and screens to engage users? Nice question. So if you are looking for fast feedback on a concept or something that's a little bit past the concept stage, what I normally do, and again, I can't say this is the only way to go, but what I normally do is I am a big Acture head. Many of you know that. I like to create realistic prototypes in Acture, though I'm usually in medium fidelity. I'm not a hand sketcher and I'm not a visual designer, but if I'm working with a design system, I can plug that in. So typically I'm in medium fidelity, but I will make the prototype realistic and I will give people a task and I will see how they do it. And I'll plug it into one of the testing services, you know, all of them, not sponsored. Validately, user testing, user testing. Who do I use? Lately I've been paying, oh gosh, I forgot their name. Userlytics, yeah. I have a paid account with them. Again, not sponsored, hashtag not sponsored. Usually the rule of thumb is if you're looking for some fast feedback, get a realistic prototype together and have 5 people run through a task. That's a great first pass at some QA, some testing, some bug testing. You will see some flaws in your concept or the idea might completely fall apart, and that's a great way to quickly do usability testing. I work completely in Acture, so I always have a prototype that's hopefully ready to go, and you could just create some tasks, get it in the testing. Hi, Olivia the dog. Hi, Olivia the dog. Olivia's home, everybody. Oh, you smell like trees and dirt. Oh, where have you been? Sorry, the dog likes to hang out on other people's yards. That's what I would do for something that's fast. I think anything less than that is too fast and is going to sacrifice on good work. So showing it to coworkers is not really testing. I call that collaboration. Testing it with one person isn't enough. I would say get a decent prototype together, even if it's a little bit of a scripted prototype, like it only works if you say California and it only works if you click here and we're telling people, you know, you're a Californian who needs this, you know, try this task. Still pretty good. That's what I would do. Hope that helps. Okay, finally, we've got Abby's question. Thanks for your patience. Hi, we can put it up on the screen. Here we go. Hi, for the first, I will be working on a feature for a project using a design sprint. What's your suggestion on it? What should I be concerned about? We will get some research material. You should be concerned about everything because a design sprint is absolute freaking garbage. I am completely against design sprints, and Abby, I would strongly recommend that you dig into the archives in the live stream podcasts playlist and look up somewhere around episode 52. I would have to check, but again, you can always go to YouTube and type Delta CX design sprints. You'll get all my short videos and all my long videos on what is wrong with design sprints. I would love for you to show that to managers and other people. If you are stuck doing a design sprint, I don't have a lot of advice for you because a design sprint is fake UX. It is workshop theater, and you might end up with nothing at the end of it, and you will get some research material that's garbage in. If you are not coming into it with deep, properly done, qualitative research that really tells us about customers or potential customers and their tasks, their needs, their habits, their motivations, their fears, their pain points, their other stuff, what are you doing? You're just guessing. I'm going to guess that at your company, some research material means someone ran a survey. It's not going to tell you anything. So be careful. Design sprints are monster, garbage in, garbage out, and very often there's a lot of garbage in. Now, some people claim that they figured out a better way to run design sprints, and they're so much better now. I still don't believe in it. So, there's I remember it's called Design Sprints Are Devolving and Evil. Won't you please see that? Okay, so I think that answers that. It might not be the answer you were looking for, but I really don't have a suggestion on what to do with a design sprint because to me it's garbage end to end. So what should you be concerned about? Everything. Please go see my other video. Thank you. Feel free to ask a follow-up question. Everybody is welcome to ask follow-up questions, by the way, even if the original question wasn't yours, because this is office hours, ask me anything, and you'll get my opinions for free. Okay, next question. What is the true job description of a product designer, and how is that different from a UX designer? Well, as you might imagine, my HR training program that I'm writing is definitely going to cover that. And the answer is right now, nearly every UX title is meaningless. Unfortunately, many of our titles are meaningless. And if someone says, I'm a product designer, we technically don't totally know what they do. We don't know if they do research. We don't know if they do information architecture. If someone says, I'm a UX designer, we don't know if they're doing research, if they're doing HTML. Right now, jobs are such a mess and titles are such a mess that we really need a revolution. I have a previous live podcast on my suggestions for where titles go, and of course I'll be including this in the training program I'm writing now for HR recruiters and hiring managers so they can stop making us terrible jobs. But to try to answer the question, as far as I can tell right now, very often a product designer is someone who is probably 70% visual design and 30% interaction design, maybe information architecture. Very often a product designer is not expected to do research, may or may not do testing, but again is usually more of an art school or visual or graphic design background, but they make wireframes. To me, that's not enough to call what they do UX. But again, at companies with lower UX maturity who just want people to make pretty screens, to them, that's enough. So I think that's wrong, and I think we need to change that. And then as for UX designer, that can mean anything. That could be an artist who makes wireframes. That could be a highly skilled and knowledgeable and experienced interaction design expert and fantastic information architect. It could be someone who's doing research, because I've seen people add that in. It could be somebody who's doing testing. We just freaking don't know. Charlene says, someone needs to fix this title issue. It's difficult to apply. I agree. And again, I am writing a training program for HR, because to me, this starts with HR. We can fight for better titles, but if HR in our companies still see us this way or create these jobs this way, we can't fix it alone. It's going to take all of us pushing against this. So again, I've got a podcast in the live stream podcasts playlist with my suggestion for where titles go and what they should mean. But again, ultimately, you just have to read the job description, because I can't tell you from a title what you're going to do. I wish I could. That's how it should work. If someone's title says QA engineer, we know that they test stuff. Now, we might not know which methodologies they're going to use or which tools they like, but we know what they do. We know where they fit into the team. We know what we expect from them. The problem is, while these titles are jumbly and wacky and meaningless, they're confusing to us. They're confusing to our coworkers, and it's just more reasons for people to belittle us and not respect us. And again, the respect also comes from how stupid we look when we can't even define our own titles. We look stupid. So this really has to be redone and formalized. I'm doing my part. I hope my model will be adopted by everybody. I make no money if it is, so I just hope it'll be adopted because I think it's a good model. But we'll see. So thank you for asking. This is Steele's question live in YouTube, so let's put it up on the screen. And it says, what do you think is the best way to structure a UX team in an agile environment where designers are working in cross-functional teams? And then Steele added, I find it's very difficult to get bigger projects that benefit the UX team off the ground. Okay, so this is also covered in my book, and I'll be covering it in the HR training. I've got my own model of how I think this should be done, and I'll also be working a little bit more next year with some trusted comrades on improving the UX and Agile model thing. But ultimately, I think that the way the UX team should be structured is I am recommending that two UX, so in my book I call them CX architects. A CX architect is someone who's kind of an interaction designer, information architect. And I'm suggesting two of those work as a team or sub-team or a pair, and they are assigned to an agile feature team. Now, the reason for two is, especially for a team with a lot of stuff, very often we're blamed as the bottleneck. So if we've got two people, then we've got more people to attack what the agile team is trying to do. Now, we still need that runway ahead of time. We cannot start at sprint 0. We just can't, because especially if we're doing research, which we should be, and we want to do some early testing on concepts before we have something ready for engineers, we've got to start ahead of sprint 0. That means better project planning from project managers, program managers, portfolio managers, however your company is doing it. So probably you need to watch, I think it's episode 32 on Agile. I don't go exactly into the composition of the team, but I do go into how UX best fits into Agile from what I've found. But as for composition of the team, which you can find in my book if you happen to have bought, you're part of the way through the book. Okay, if you have the Kindle copy, you can search for that. And if you have the paper copy, let me see what chapter it is. Hold on. Oh, give me a moment. Probably this one. In part 2, it says job titles, roles, and headcount, page 193. If you have a paper book. If you have a Kindle book, look for the subchapter in part 2, job title, CX job titles, roles, and headcount. So that's my tips there. But again, if you don't have my book, the short version of that answer is I'm calling two CX architects, the architecture team. They work together. That helps with bottlenecks. It helps when one goes on vacation. It helps if one gets sick. It helps if one gets fired. Now you have someone who has complete knowledge of the project who can bring someone else up to speed. Now when we have one person on a project and that person is fired, sick, maternity leave, paternity leave, whatever, so much knowledge goes out the door and the project is in trouble and we're blamed for that. So that's what you got the paperback. Okay, that's what I was holding. So 193 page roughly. So that's a little bit of my team composition. I'll probably have to do a separate podcast about it, but I've got the podcast on roles and titles. I've got the podcast on Agile, and I haven't done team composition. And then so on my team, I also have a team of a researcher and a data analyst. I'm suggesting we bring data analysts into CX and UX. And then I have kind of a floating visual designer and writer as separate jobs who help out the architects where needed. But again, that's less to do with Agile and more to do with how I think UX teams should work, especially if you read the interview in the book with the Scrum coach who says, oh yeah, when UX people go on vacation, the Scrum team is just going to do their work because it has to get done, and it doesn't matter if it's done well or not, it just has to get done. And I'm like, oh, we're never going on vacation again, or we have to work in pairs. So again, I would say watch my other stuff only because it's too long an answer to try to repeat all that stuff now. And I promise I see the other questions coming in and I'm putting them in the list. So we are up to A career-related question, says anonymous question person. Career-related questions are, of course, welcome. I'll always give whatever advice I can. As a UX designer, do you think a course in service design will be beneficial? Also, if possible, what are the courses you recommend? Who has a master's in UX design? That sentence is a little strange. So if you're asking, are you asking for courses that I recommend for a person who already has a master's or who wants to get a master's? Right now, the only good master's I've heard about is University of Washington State University. I've heard very good things about that master's. Other masters, I've mostly heard not good things. If you're talking about what courses someone who already has a master's should take, I'm researching that now, so I don't want to make any suggestions yet, but please know I am researching some new courses I just heard about. I don't think the courses are new, but I've only learned about them recently. I spoke to the people who wrote them, they gave me access to them, and I'm going to try to review them by the end of the year so that I can say these are good courses or these are not good courses, or yes, they're good, but. So I want to be able to say that. Okay. And then what was the other part of that question? Is doing a course in service design beneficial? If it's a good course, yes. If it's a bad course, no. So I don't know. But I think the more we can learn about any aspect of what we do, even if you don't end up with a service design job, you'll always find something. If the course is good, you'll find something that you bring into your practice, even if you don't end up specifically a service designer. So I think good courses are always worth taking. I've had it on pause for a while, but I've been taking a Lean Six Sigma course, and even though I might not ever use it and I might not bother getting the certification, there's a lot of great stuff in there that I think companies should be doing. So to me, that's worth it. Hope that helps. Okay, the next question is, how do you research and test to understand users' impressions about a website's company page? Okay, so it sounds like we want to learn what people think about our company's website. I hope I got that right. What are you all drinking right now? I've got lemonade. Sugar-free. Not sponsored. And again, don't forget to subscribe and watch all the stuff in the archives and empathize with the like button, help with the YouTube algorithm. That's all I can ask. How do you research and test? Okay, so first of all, you have to determine what impressions are you trying to understand. Are you looking to understand how they feel about everything? Or are you looking for things in particular? Are you looking for, can they accomplish a task? What is their task? Did we do the research to understand that? Are you looking for, how do they feel about the copy or the content? Sometimes I see people testing just copy and content to see if it resonates with people or if it should be written differently. So you have to start with, what are you trying to learn? Aftab says, I've made a mean green juice. Shannon says water. Steele says tea. Mean green juice. Sounds mean. Hope it doesn't make you green. So you got to start out with, what are you trying to learn and why? What's the outcomes of this? So I would say, whatever it is, to me, it's going to be some sort of qualitative research. I'm not going to run a survey. I'm not going to ask people to fill out a did you like it? I'm not going to ask them to rate us on 1 to 10. If you really want to know what people think of something, you've got to give them a task and let them run through it, either moderated or unmoderated, or you've got to do some interviews or some observational research. Watch them, have them share their screen in Zoom. Watch them use this, give them tasks, watch them use it, and learn, where is it going right or wrong? Where are they having trouble with the navigation? Where can't they accomplish their task? What is their task? How do they feel about the content? So ultimately, this, I would say, is evaluative, qualitative research that is probably best done through observation, even if it's remote with screen sharing and you're watching them use the site, and you've given them a task. You know, you're trying to decide to buy our product. Watch what they do. Make it really open-ended. Don't tell them exactly what to do. Don't say, you're looking at our new photocopier. Give them an open-ended thing to see what they do. So it's a very broad question, and that's a very broad answer. I hope that's helped a little bit. So please send over a follow-up question if there's something that I didn't quite Just checking. Oh, more questions coming in. Thank you, everybody. I've got these in. I promise. I'm pasting. Okay, the next question is... Oh, Shannon says, if you want to learn more about what the company does, where would you go and monitor those steps? For sure. Yeah. Or, how do you decide if you trust this company? Let's see what they do. Open-ended stuff. Okay, next question. Do you think giving criteria cognitive aptitude tests, CCAT, to designers is a good thing even before looking at the portfolio or talking to them? I actually have a short video about this, or at least I think I do. I meant to. I feel like I do. Anyway, my answer here is, and what I'm going to put in my HR training is, I do not want to see people given tests until they have made the first cut. It doesn't make sense to say, before we can look at your application, please do this test. I'm refusing those because it sounds like a waste of my time. It sounds like a hand motion I'd like to make but shouldn't make, so that I don't get in trouble with people for doing inappropriate hand motions. But I would say that it's definite bullshit, and I think it doesn't make sense, because if 500 people apply for the job, should we give 500 people this test only to find out later we liked 20 people's portfolios? So normally what I'm suggesting is start with some resume or portfolio reviews or something the company can do to weed out the people they absolutely don't want, no matter how they do on the cognitive aptitude test. That's the gate. I tell people the gate is that one thing or two things where if you don't have this, the gate doesn't open for you. If your portfolio stinks, the gate shouldn't open for you, and it doesn't matter how you did on the cognitive test. So I think people, and I have this in my training, have to get their workflow in a better order. Do not test people before we're sure they have made the first or second cut. And sometimes when I've pushed back on companies and said, I don't want to take everybody's tests, and they've said, oh, well, okay, then we'll interview you first, but we can't hire you without the test. And I say, fine, if you're in danger of almost hiring me, I'll take your test. But I'm not going to take these tests, especially when some of them are half hour or an hour, or they say, please study first, or please take it seriously. You're wasting my time, and that's disrespectful and unfair. And Charlene says, damn, I had those when I was looking for a job earlier this year. Yeah, I won't do it unless I'm sure I've made some sort of cut. And if they can't communicate with me about where I am in the process and if I've made the cut, I don't want to work there. So pass. And Steele, I see your new question. I'm going to get it into the list, but questions are coming in from all over the place. So I'm doing my best to stay on top of all of it as a one-woman show. I see there's also a new anonymous question. Oh, that was the time zones one. I think I got that. Yeah. Okay, time zones, we're up to you. Thank you for all the anonymous questions today. These have been great. What suggestions do you have for someone who wants to complete user research, mainly user interviews and usability testing across multiple time zones? I'm based in the UK, and I want to investigate the needs of users in Australia. Wake up early. Stay up late. Adjust yourself for them. That's really the best way to go. If we're going to investigate Australia, good news, you already speak their language, but I would make sure that whatever times you make available make sense for their day. So typically I'll make sure I have some open times for the middle of the day for people who don't work or can take off from work to talk to you, or it's part of their work. And then sometimes I'll make some evening times their time, and sometimes even some weekend time their time, especially if it's a consumer item and this isn't part of their job. I'm dealing with that now where I'm in Italy and I'm doing a study with mostly Americans, and someone wrote in saying, is 3:45 a.m. my time really the only slot you have open? And they found the last slot available, which was 10:45 a.m. my time. So I opened up some Saturday night my time, which will be midday their time, and they took it. So I think it's going to rely on us to be flexible, to work outside of our normal hours. See if you can talk to your manager maybe about swapping hours. Like, hey, look, I'm going to be up all night talking to these Australians, so I'm not going to be there during the day. I'm going to shift my time so that you're not working a 60-hour week unless they'll pay you for that. So I think when it comes to working with time zones, the best thing you can do is be the flexible one and don't expect them to work on UK time. The end. All right, let's see. How are we doing? Now, we've only got a few more minutes left, and we've got one question from Steele. So if you've got any last questions, please ask them today. Remember, office hours is every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I'll be doing this all through the Christmas and New Year and Hanukkah and everything as well, because I am not religious and I'm also not traveling. So I will be here every Tuesday, and these are always archived in the office hours playlist. So if you miss one, you're welcome to watch it back. And of course, you can always watch stuff on 1.5x or 2x if you like to hear me talk really fast. And of course, I ask for so little. Please subscribe and press the like button. And while I answer the last question, I want to give everybody something to think about. And that is probably early next year, I might turn on Super Chat for the live streams on YouTube. If you're not familiar with that, Super Chat is where it is totally optional. You can leave me a tip, as in a little bit of money during the stream. And of course, I would be very grateful. It would go to, first of all, reimburse me for the gear I've bought, and it would feed the low ego action heroes. They eat lots of chicken. Obviously, the money goes to me. 70% of it, YouTube keeps 30%. But it would be something, it would be the little virtual tip jar. And I would like to know from you, does that sound appropriate, inappropriate, acceptable, unacceptable? Of course, it'd be totally optional. And you could give me 2 cents and you could give me $2 million. So tell me what you think about the Super Chat. And if you're not familiar with it, Google YouTube Super Chat. Okay, so our last question comes from Steele, and it says, when working for an agency and a client comes to you with a bad idea for an app, how do you get buy-in for a discovery phase to make sure you're solving the right problem on a fixed timeline and budget other than a design sprint? Yeah, and very often I find a design sprint will sometimes accidentally support the bad idea, because when we tell people to empathize, someone's going to be able to empathize with the bad reason why someone wants this app to exist. Oh yeah, I could see users wanting that. I've got empathy. And then that bad idea has more legs. So I think that normally what I do, especially in the agency world, which is a lot of my experience, is it depends on my relationship with the client. If I don't have a great relationship with the client, or if the client is new, then I'm going to talk to some of the people at the agency and I'm going to say, what role does the client expect us to play? Because typically an agency client usually wants one of 2 things. Not always, usually. They either want an order taker. Hey, I want this app built. You guys design apps. Make me an app. Order taker. Sometimes people hire agencies to be this pair of hands and just do the thing and shut up and don't tell me it's a bad idea. Sometimes people go to agencies because they recognize that the agency has hired talent and experts and critical thinkers and problem finders and problem solvers. And in that case, you would go back to the client or to the client relationship manager and you would say, hey, we really need to do a little bit of digging here because I'm worried this project isn't going in the right direction. And I would rather do some research to learn what is the right direction for this. So so that's the start, is what is the relationship, what's the role that you're playing, and does the client is the client open to hearing this might not be the best idea, it might not be what users need, and you might want to go in a different direction. Now, Steele's written into the YouTube chat, order taker, which of course is bad news, and I'm sorry to hear it. And to me, agencies should never be order takers, but of course it happens all the time. So in that case, I would probably connect with some of the other people within the agency. hey, agency client relationship manager, hey, agency creative director, hey, agency vice president. I would call a meeting with all the people I possibly could. And I would say, this client has something that's very likely a bad idea, but I recognize that our role is to just build what this person wants, whether or not it's a good idea. However, I'm concerned for our agency. I'm concerned about the possible outcome of if we do our best and try to build what this person wants and just act as the order taker pair of hands and build this, when this fails for this guy or woman or team, will they blame us? Will they hold us responsible for this app's failure because the app is a bad idea or a bad concept? Will we be blamed for this? And if we are blamed for this, will we lose this client? And if we lose this client, are we okay with that? Or do we love this guy and we want more business from, I'm saying guy and I mean it gender neutrally. I apologize. I got to get out of that habit. Do we like this person or this company and we hope to have more work with them? If so, we probably shouldn't just be order takers, because if we just take orders and we don't do some critical thinking here, we run the risk that if this app ends up garbage or unpopular or meaningless or useless, that he blames us. And, blaming us is bad. It could mean that we get sued. It could mean that we don't get more business from this person. It could be that this person tells people we're terrible. So, hey, agency vice president. Hey, client relationship manager. Hey, people above my pay grade. How do you want to play this? Do you just want to do what this guy says and run those risks? Or should we propose to this person a 2-week, 3-week, whatever research project to I don't want to say validate the idea, because sometimes we end up invalidating the idea. That's why Design Sprints version 3 now has research at the front so that we can invalidate a bad idea. Shannon says, agencies are in the business of taking client money regardless of bad ideas. I don't miss agency life. I love agency life, but I'm very picky about my clients and my customers. And they have to understand that I and my team are change agents. And if you are bringing us in, we are probably going to tell you some stuff that some people are going to go, ugh, elephant in room. But you're not hiring us if you want order takers. You're just not. And I make that pretty clear. So Steele, I hope that helps. But I would probably take this up higher and just say, these are the possible outcomes. If the person's app ends up successful, congratulations, we're all winners. If the person's app ends up unsuccessful, will we be sued because it was somehow our fault? Will this person badmouth us? Will this person leave us bad online ratings? Will this person, I don't know what. So see if you can get your coworkers to put their critical thinking hats on to see these possible outcomes and say, what could we do? Because with a 2 to 3 week CX or UX research project, we could learn if this proposed target audience really has a need for this type of thing. And we could even learn what's a better idea for this client that's more likely to be successful. And that would really make us more useful, meaningful, better relationship, whatever. Steele says, I'm trying to change things, Shannon. Shannon says, thumbs up. So lots of sympathy there. I think that's going to be my answer. So I think we are out of time. Hopefully, somebody sent one more question. All right, let's do it. That is the lastest question, everybody. Then we are shutting down for the night, and we'll see each other next week. Thanks to Maria. Good to see you here. You said you would show up, and you did. That is very sweet of you. Maria says yes to Super Chat and possible donations. So hopefully that won't be anything that is upsetting to people or inappropriate, because I don't want to sell ads here. I don't want sponsorships. I don't want to be for rent, but a little tip jar I think would be fun. So the last question says, I would like to do some mentoring in UX. How can I step into that part? I think the way to step into UX mentoring is to, first of all, have the self-awareness to see What am I an expert in? Because I think if you're not an expert, it may or may not make sense to be a mentor, because I know that I want to learn from experts. If you're not an expert, why would I want to learn from you or get mentoring from you? So you have to figure out, what am I an expert at? What am I great at? Where someone would want to be my mentee and learn from me. And it doesn't have to be a zillion things. It could be a focused thing. You could say, well, for 7 years, I've been doing UX work in the healthcare space. I'd like to mentor people who are in the healthcare space or moving into it. You might say, oh, I did a successful career transition and now I'm in my 3rd year in UX. I want to work with career transitioners. Whatever it is, figure out what you're the expert at. Because to me, a mentor, a coach, is usually an expert at something or pretty close to it. And that way they're able to answer questions that come up. You wouldn't want to be like, hello, I'm your mentor. And somebody goes, okay, how do I do this? And you go, oh, I don't know. I haven't done that. If you claim that's your area of expertise. So have the self-awareness to know what your expertise is. If there isn't one yet, or you're still a little bit newer to UX or CX, or there just isn't kind of a natural answer that jumps out at you when I say that, then I would say press pause. Find some leadership opportunities in your work if you can, but ultimately keep leveling up. And then once you find what you have that expertise in, then, I think you can put it out there even on LinkedIn. Hi, I have 6 years of blah, 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 and I would love to take on 2 mentees, and I've got this much time for you, and I'm charging or I'm not charging, and here's how to get in touch with me. I think if you put it out on LinkedIn, people would be very hungry for that. And that'd be a great place to do it, since LinkedIn's related to work more than anything else. So that I think answers that. Now I've got a research thing coming up. Hannah says, I think a tip jar is great. Possible alternative to this guy is these folks. Yeah, I've seen that people are suggesting replacing guys with pretty much anything else. And again, I that is an old habit I need to get out of, and I do apologize for it. Folks I've seen, people, humans, everybody. Maybe I'll just go for the Italian tutti. But I have to get out of the you guys habit. What have you all replaced you guys with, if you had a habit of calling everybody you guys? I used to even call groups of women you guys. Like, I just really didn't see the gender there, but I know that it's very offensive to some people, and in that case, it's not the right thing to say for many reasons. So give me some ideas, and then we're gonna shut down. Let's see, any ideas? These folks. That's a good one. If you have no other ideas, then we can all go to sleep. Now, so what's coming up next? I don't have too many podcasts coming up next because it's the holidays, and I figured I'd leave everybody the archive. We've got hundreds of videos in the archive. It's a great time to go back into the archive and watch office hours, watch live podcasts, watch micro lessons, watch the short perspectives videos. There's definitely enough Delta CX to carry you through the holiday season. We're just now planning January 11th as our first live podcast of the new year, and it should be freaking hilarious. So mark your calendars there. Shannon says y'all. That works for me. I lived for a long time in Tucson, so all y'all. Steele says everyone. Hannah says I have trouble replacing it too, but my aunt is offended and suggested folks. Yep. So we got to change it. So I will see everybody next Tuesday at Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I think I'm just doing Tuesdays until January 11th, which will be the return of the live podcast. I'm going to have 2 guests, and we are going to humorously rip apart 2021 predictions and supposed trends, and look back at some of the 2020 predictions and rip those apart. So it should be pretty funny. Tango says, thank you, Debbie. Enjoy your Christmas. I will be working. Thank you, Tango. Everybody have a great holiday season, whatever you are celebrating or not celebrating. And most of all, please stay safe. Please don't travel wear your mask and just do all the things. It's just too important. Tourism is not worth being sick or possibly dying or hurting others. The end. Because you have empathy, right? Yes, if we have empathy, we wear a mask. The end. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you next Tuesday. Be well. Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.